So here we are. Welcome to Couples Plus, our first episode.
Yes.
Here we are.
Exciting new endeavor that Adriana and I and this amazing team that we have with Ashra, the sex therapist, and Ashley, a dope human being that has been a part of our friendship / whatever for about 5 to 6 years. But I guess this is a perfect time for us to kind of dive in and talk about the purpose of this whole thing and our why. So, Adriana, would you like to start?
Sure. Intimacy, sex, it's something that has been, it's part of every relationship. And at least for me, I was very shut down, even though I explored, but I was very hidden about my explorations. And I still somewhat am to an extent, even though I've opened a lot more. Obviously, we're doing this. But I kind of grew up there was shame around doing anything besides missionary. That was sex. Even though my parents, or my mom, I should say, was very open talking about sex growing up, anything that went outside of just the basic sex, even a blowjob, it was Then when found out that I was having sex, it became a thing for the whole family to know, because how could I do that to her, even though I was 17 years old? So again, that led to, I kept doing what I was doing, but it added some shame to it. So just with the years, kind of with my partner, I continued to explore, but it wasn't really until we met that exploration delved a little bit more, and met someone that was willing to go into that side with me and encouraged me and allowed me to go into that side and explore and be fully myself and really release those desires. Now we're parents, and that leads to why we're doing Couples Plus, but I'll let you kind of.
Yeah, so I'll start there and kind of work my way back. But for me, as the husband / father, it definitely changed the dynamic that we had, that we were actually growing into sexually, having children. I started to see her less as a sexual being and more as this person who's feeding and nurturing our children. And not to mention, just the on-demand feeding or the co-sleeping, all of these different things that didn't allow for us to cultivate any sexual energy between us. And it kind of just took work, or takes work, I would say, for us to create a space where we can be sexual and be intimate in the space of these kids. So
babies are the biggest cock blockers.
100%.
This is true. But for
even 9-year-olds are too.
I was gonna ask that.
Kids, period. Kids. But no, for me, it definitely it really stems from the why stems from my own personal sexual traumas. For instance, my mother had me very young, which was a thing growing up to don't be like me, don't have sex, blah blah blah. And I didn't have sex until, I have to preface it because this is a really cool story. Mom, I'm sorry, but my mom had me when she was 15. My dad was 17, and my mom was her losing her virginity. My dad owned 2 condoms. I know this is the no, but apparently in his 17-year-old mind, this is this is going to create extra protection. So it did not. I'm here. So yeah. So
thank you, I guess.
Exactly. So yeah. So I can understand from a 15-year-old who's losing her virginity, doing the thing that you're not supposed to do, and then you end up with the gift, how it can be a traumatic experience for you or for one. And needless to say, that's kind of the energy that I grew up with. But my mom is an Aries, so she's very spicy when it comes to certain things. So when it came to my high school graduation, I got condoms for Christmas, that year for Christmas, just reminder, you know what I mean? Just she would always slide in the little reminders, protect yourself, don't have no kids.
Without having an actual deep conversation.
Exactly. So for me, I didn't have sex, and all my football friends and I played sports growing up, so you know, a lot of my friends, they would have their sex stories, and I'm just over there in the corner, like just listening, like this, like, man, I can't wait. But for me, it was, you know, they would ask me like, oh man, Sean, you scared? Politically incorrect, excuse me, but y'all, man, you scared of the pussy? Like, you can't be scared of the pussy. Like, you gotta just go do your thing, blah blah blah. And yeah, it was like not about it, because I just, again, I didn't want, at this point, I just didn't want to have kids the first time I had sex. Like, so it was in the back of my mind, like, obviously I can't wear 2 condoms, but I don't want to have kids the first time. So I grew up with that. And needless to say, again, you know, it definitely was always in the back of my mind, having certain sexual practices be taboo. And now that, again, I'm a grown man, and you know, I have children of my own, and I have a wife that is open, you know, we've explored, we've been to sex clubs together.
Sorry, Mom.
We've done different things in the aspect of the plus side of things as well. And yeah, so it created a interesting dynamic for us prior to us having kids, and then we kind of just like stopped. And yeah, so this was like the perfect way for us to rekindle after our second child was born. Audrey had a sex surge, I like to call it. And like, we kind of really, well, you were more sexual with number 2 than.
Oh, well,
so let me explain
while
the
I was
sex surge.
pregnant, yeah. While I was pregnant, I was like, yeah.
Yeah, so it definitely helped with us opening ourselves back up, and here we are, like, thinking about others, and like, hey, this is a great way for us to not only and heighten our sexual awareness, but also maybe for others who may not, or may need to have this conversation, or may not be having conversation with their friends and family. This is a great way for us to like break the ice. So here we are.
Yeah, really quick, which I know you guys were going to talk about too, but like the whole idea of the depth, right? It's not just about like fucking, although that's great, but the depth that comes with it, with the person that you're having sex with, the again, what for me, how I was able to open in certain ways, like certain things that were like taboo in my mind, that were my shadow, that were that I couldn't do it because, I mean, just having sex with my boyfriend was all of a sudden something I was doing to other people, and you know, like the weight that carried in that. So I think it just, for the idea of the openness and the getting to know and allow a certain part of yourself and explore a certain side of yourself. So it's not just about like going and like, yeah. So.
Welcome.
that's
welcome. Although sometimes doing that is just as, you know, it depending on what the boundaries are in the situation, but
exactly.
I guess,
yeah, I'm not saying it's wrong, like,
no,
I'm just saying it's not just about that.
Right. Well, I guess I'll go since I just started talking, and then let Ashra wrap up with like the professional opinion
at
the end. But you know, over these last bunch of weeks, as we've been meeting and talking, it's given me time to reflect on like, who would I have been if like the social conditioning wasn't there, if, you know, the religious factors were not a factor for me, but I know that they are for other people. I did experience sexual trauma at a younger age. But I also, it's led me to reflect and wonder, who would I have been if I was able to embrace my power and my sexual energy and those curiosities in a more healthy, solid way at a younger age. And I know that if, you know, what I know now at 38, if I would have known it in my early 20s, or felt that confidence or power, or been healed, you know, I was healed from the trauma that happened to me at 17, it would have prevented me from more trauma, unfulfilling experiences, you know, expectations in relationships, or just how I gave my body and how that manifested in different ways in my relationships over the last, you know, bunch of years. So, you know, the idea of, I still feel grateful that I started that healing and self-discovery in my mid-20s, so that like by the time I'm 40, I feel like I'm in a really good space around it, but knowing that we're creating something that like it's never too late to break out of that box and start that healing to have more fulfilling relationships. Like I love that, you know, no matter where you are on the journey, we all still have work to do, and that we can come together and do it together and, you know, build this community. Then the more we break down those taboos and those insecurities and people understand the healing like that, like, you know, then it's generational. Like then we're raising our children differently, and people are going back with their partners and talking to their friends. And like, my hope is like slowly this will become more the norm, that people are like, we can talk about this. It's okay to talk about this. But, you know, I have a different experience than you guys. You know, I'm a single mom and have been raising my daughter without any live-in partner. Most of my relationships have been long distance, away from my child. And, you know, also not feeling any mom shame or mom guilt that I still want to be a sexual being, even though I don't have a significant other in our life, and not feeling like, you know, I not slut shaming. I've never felt that, but like, I feel like there's a perception of, you know, single moms, and like being careful how I represent myself and who I want to be with. Also, there's the layer of like, I am not just bringing random people to my house, and my daughter's like never experienced, you know, like a man in the house, or feeling that energy. So it's been interesting to explore that. And, you know, I'm getting to the point where I've had a lot of fun over the last bunch of years, but I've also had periods of celibacy. The longest one was almost 3 years. And that was right after I had my daughter. And it was like, I knew I had to get to the bottom of some of those issues, because I didn't want it to be a reoccurring theme in my life, nor did she gave me the motivation to, you know, I couldn't tolerate maybe some of the toxic traits that I would have picked in the past, because now you're caring for a full human. But I'm excited to dig deeper. And, you know, even though we're the ones coordinating this event, I know that we're going to get tremendous amount of healing and information and grow like light years. I feel like I've even grown and opened up, and it's made me think about different things, even in our conversations over the past couple of months. So I'm just excited to see where this, you know, continues to go and grow, and what, you know, what the future holds for Couples Plus, because I think this is just the beginning of a really awesome project. So I cannot wait.
Absolutely.
Agreed.
Absolutely.
So,
Kendra?
yeah. So, I mean, I talk about sex for a living. Anywhere between 3 to 8 hours of my day is spent talking about sex. And I love that. And I'm going to kind of try and condense a few decades worth of information into a short synopsis. I think a lot of this really starts with how I got the sex talk. I'm from Jamestown, New York, a very small town on the southern tier. And when I was in, I think, first grade, I want to say, there was a huge outbreak of HIV in our town because of one person knowingly spread it to a lot of very young girls. At school, they weren't really handling that in a way that was appropriate for us. They were basically like, there was a lot of talk about AIDS and HIV, and this is the early 90s or mid 90s. This was 97. It was the 90s. I came home and like being like 5 or 6 year old, and I was just like, Mom, I'm really concerned that I'm gonna get AIDS. And she was like, what? And I was like, well, everyone at school's talking about it. I don't really know how. She's like, I swear to you, honey, you don't have AIDS. And I was like, are you sure? And she was like, I'm positive. And I was, but being a child, I kept asking. She was like, I know this because you get it from, you know, all of these things, but you get it from sex. And I was like, well, what the hell's that mean? Didn't say that, but and she had to break it down. And I was like, people do what? And she was like, okay, like not everybody is good. And their parents aren't going to tell them this at the same age we're telling you. So I need you to not go tell your friends. And I was like, okay, sure. I'm pretty sure the next day at school, I was like, go tell it on the mountain. I was like, yo, that's what people do. And I was always something very interested in it. And they put me into different programs about, one was called Our Whole Lives through the UU Church. And it was about understanding boundaries and consent and using evidence-based or like real information, giving kids the information they need. And as I grew through life, I fell into activism. For my undergraduate degree, I studied global gender studies, and I studied sex and gender across cultures, and became a sexual health educator. And so I was the person at UB putting condoms on phalluses at the orientations. And I really loved the education. I really loved the public health aspect. And then slowly I became, during a workshop that I was working on called FemSex, it was all about like women and sexuality. One of the participants was involved with BDSM, and she told me all about like the kink scene. And I was like, this is fascinating. I've known so much about sex and pleasure, and I didn't know anything at that point. And I was like 21. So I found that community to be very supportive and to be very healing. And also finding that many people in that community have trouble accessing supportive mental health care or relationship care. And so I fell into marriage and family therapy because I wanted to expand the field into being supportive for people that find themselves in non-traditional, big quotes, lifestyles, and that structure their relationship in a way that meets their needs and not for the ethics and the comfort of other people. And it's been really, really gratifying work. And I've just really felt myself blossom in that field and feeling connected with other people. So I learned about BDSM. I wanted to expand the field. And then it like just seeing the amount of need that there is for people that are affirming of gender identity and affirming of identity in general, and like finding this sweet spot of saying like, let's build more communities. Let's build more communities where people can just be themselves safely and not in a space that they're not going to incur judgment or any backlash. And not to say that it's going to be a utopia, no one's ever going to have their toes stepped on. But when that happens, having a constructive conversation about why it happened and how it happened and what that means. So I'm very into community building. And I'm so excited to see what comes out of this, knowing that we're really just like, it's like planting a seed, but not knowing what kind of plant is going to bloom. Mm-hmm. And being like, I know something is going to happen. There's a dirt and there's the sun and there's water. And we're just like being like, what are you going to be? And that's like, just, I'm so excited. I'm so excited. To see
that was a great analogy, by the way.
That really was. And I think a perfect leadway to really let people what it is that we're doing, right? We're creating this retreat series because we're starting with one, but it's not going to be the end of it, where we're bringing people from all over the world to participate in community building, workshops with Ashra. We have spiritual engagement and workshops as well, and just getting to know each other and getting to know yourself. With that too, we're building this podcast where we're going to be having guests from all different ends of the sexual spectrum. Yeah, that's what I was I'm like, you know,
is there a technical term for that, Ashra? The sexual spectrum.
I think, I mean, that would probably, there's like the Kinsey scale, but I don't know if that really encompasses everything.
Well,
Lots of flavors.
Let's just coin that one. Whether it's a kinkster or somebody that, maybe a throuples or maybe another sex therapist, people in the sex wellness industry, people in the sex industry. We really just want to engage others in conversation so that we can better understand and learn and grow and allow all our listeners, viewers, potential future guests to learn as well.
Yeah, I'm really excited about these workshops. I'm plucking some of the interventions that I use in therapy and tailoring them for workshops. So they were designed to understand yourself and to understand this is how my body likes to be touched. And this is how it doesn't like to be touched. And both of those are really valid pieces of information. And this is how I want to communicate that to other people, which I think in our normal life, people don't have those in-depth of conversations of what sensations do I like? What feels good for my central nervous system? We don't usually go that deep. We're just this sweater's itchy, or
right.
So yeah. No itchy sweaters here.
No itchy sweater.
I'm very excited about the workshops, to be honest.
For sure.
So the conversations so far, I know we're recording our intro right now after having some conversations that with guests, you'll get to listen to them too. But just these conversations have been healing, and I've learned so much both about myself, I feel like it's been helpful for us as well in reconnecting. And also, I'm just a very curious person, and I love to learn about what's out there and what other people do. And,
Same.
you don't know what you can explore if you don't know what's there also.
This is
Exactly.
true. And for me, again, as the male here, as the male voice, I want to get rid of a lot of the male toxicity that comes with sexuality. And again, being open to understanding more and having empathy for others in their journey, and not necessarily judging them based off of my moral compass and what I deem to be the necessary right way, or quote unquote right way, I should say. But yeah, I think these conversations have definitely been quite healing. I'm grateful for this feminine energy that we have here of amazing women who are open and free and are not closed off to exposing their truths. That makes sense.
Well,
Welcome
thanks
to Club Plus.
Welcome to Plus.
Yay.
Anything else anybody wants to share about what it is we're building for our listeners to look forward to or have a better understanding of us? Because I feel good about what we shared so far.
I think it's perfect.
We're not an orgy.
Oh, that part.
Yes,
That should be. We should make that a sound bite.
If one organically happens,
Right. That's fine.
We're not saying it's off limits. We're just saying that's not we're not flying to paradise for that.
That is not
is it hedonism, or what's the resort? There's some resorts that are all about
yeah.
I think
This is not that.
no, it's
Not that. If that's your thing, let your freak flag fly so high. I love that for you. I love that journey for you. It's just not the journey that we're pushing you into.
right. That's not the purpose of it. But like you said, if something organically happens between you and you and you, and you all love it, and you're all consenting and have fun, we encourage you to go do your thing, right? But don't expect anything like that from anybody else, or don't expect that to be the purpose of the event. Thank you for reminding me.
Well, and even though it is couples plus, that plus, includes singles. So there will be, if you want to come by yourself, don't let the name fool you that this is I will be there single. So this is for anybody on that journey. And going back to the orgy point, just because they're singles there does not make them free for the taking by the couples. It's really just opening it up to everybody and where they are at their healing journey and where they want to explore more. And I'm just excited about these conversations to continue to happen. And some people might listen to all of our episodes. One or two might be the one that turns on a little light bulb, and that's good. I think it's just the more that we're out here sharing our authentic truths and stories will help others feel like they can live their authentic truth in this world too, that tries to make us feel like we can't be anything but the cookie cutter norm. So the more we can get in this tribe, the more we can start. What?
I was just whispering, that's boring. It's so boring. Like,
it's so boring. I don't want to be a cookie cutter. I don't want to be, doing boring things.
I don't think anybody here. Yeah.
Anybody watch the show Weeds? Remember the theme song from that show?
I remember the show, but not the song.
The little boxes full of ticky tackies. Yeah. Oh my God. A core memory unlocked.
You just made me think of a theme song for us like that, and then just like.
Right. Exactly.
Something else. But you were saying, Ash, yeah,
Super Gremlin comes on.
Not.
Well, I'm just excited that, the more that, us taking the step and being brave to come out and talk about, things that might feel a little bit out of our comfort zone. My hope is that, other people find us and be like, finally, I found a place where maybe I can explore that, or have the confidence to, be more open on my social media or with my family or with my partner, or like, I hope, even if it doesn't change right away, that whatever we're doing and the words that we speak are picked up by those who need that and who are ready to take that next step. And we might be the ones that, inspired them to, dig a little bit deeper and to have some confidence to explore and to live their best life.
Absolutely. And I mean, to be honest, doing this for me is a little bit of that, because I've been very closeted, I guess, about my own personal exploration. Especially when I was working in the corporate space. So
I think it's going to be interesting, like with having my husband attend, because like he is my partner and we like, he's never seen me work before.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's going to be really interesting for, because he's the person that I share my intimate life with,
Mm-hmm.
but also I'm oddly protective of my work. And so, I've always sort of had them in these different compartments, even though I am talking about sex all day.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's going to be a really interesting experience for me to say like, oh yes, here is like part of my life too, and they're coming together, and sometimes that makes me go wow. And I think it's going to be cool though, and I'm excited to see what comes out of it.
That's dope. But going back, last thing about the whole like couples plus, this is whatever your situation is, coupled, not coupled, as Asha put it in the past, somewhere in between. Everybody's welcome. Everybody's welcome.
Uncomplicate that whole
Uncomplicate it. Yes, like think too much about things sometimes, and we just need to be able to exist without thinking of what will others think about me, which that's a big thing that I'm working on, just putting that out there. So anybody judging me, I'm done thinking about you. And so we really need to live our lives and just do what makes us happy, what satisfies us. So long as you're not stepping on anybody else, what does it matter?
Exactly. Right. I mean, I can definitely say that having spent first working as an educator, and now I'm going into my 8th year as a therapist, specializing in sex, sexuality, affairs, out of control sexual behavior. If you can make me go, wait, what? Then I'm going to be, I welcome that. It's been a while. My barometer is very skewed. So but I love hearing people's stories, and I love being like, well, was it fun? And did you enjoy yourself, or do you need healing? Like, what is it? What do you need about that? So I think it's going to be super fun.
I think that you saying that, right, about your barometer, it just goes to show, because most of us don't hear what everybody, again, I know I'm not the only closeted person that explores out there, right? So if I'm doing this, I know I'm not the only one. And like, because we don't talk about it, we think that we are like doing something that, again, is taboo, or something that is bad, or something that shouldn't be done, or it's not accepted by society. But the more that we talk to other people, and the more that we explore, and again, the purpose of Couple Plus as a healing space as well as an informational podcast for you to learn, is to just look, there's all of these things out there, and we're all normal.
Yes.
Yeah. Just, just make, as long as you're centering consent, and everybody's cool with what you're doing, and you're doing it in a way that isn't negatively hurting somebody else, it's okay. You're good. I love this for you. So be your bad self. That's my.
Hey.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, how shall we say bye to our people, and
Till next time.
Till next time.
Check out our website and learn more about the retreat on there.
Plus 22.
I hope everybody has a footloose and fancy-free day. So
yes, enjoy the sunshine.
Like that. I'm actually gonna take that, a footloose and fancy-free day.
That's how I end a lot of sessions. I'll be like, well, not if somebody's like in a bad spot, but I'm like, would you like to do like a container exercise, or are you feeling footloose and fancy-free? And sometimes they'll be like, I'd like to do a container. And sometimes they're like, I feel footloose and fancy-free. And I'm like, cool.
Can we make that our official ending to our episodes?
Yes, please.
Please. I welcome you. Please, give us our goodbye for today.
I hope you all have a footloose and fancy-free day.